Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming to watch my presentation. My presentation topic is about measuring sustainable psychometrics modeling in child welfare research, measurement challenges. So, it's really, okay, all right. So, I have come to realize that child welfare workers' work motivation is very different from where I'm originally from, public administration and or like business school students who often focus on financial gain. So I realized like the job motivation in child welfare might be different from the other job motivation in other fields, but when I tried to search the scales on child welfare job motivation, the most of the child welfare researchers adopted the regular job motivation scales developed by other discipline scholars. So I think there is a fundamental gap between two different, disciplinary job motivation scales. So even though I did not major in child welfare in social work, I tried to challenge myself to develop and scale the model of child welfare job motivation. Okay, so quite a few studies have qualitatively investigated the job motivation of case managers working in child welfare. So we do not have a lot of sample sizes when we conducted qualitative study. I mean, qualitative study, it has its own purpose and innate nature of good things. But when we want to generalize the phenomena in social studies, and we eventually need to have a lot of sample sizes focus on population representative. So I wanted to build up more sustainable methodological approaches focused on scientific rigor and try to overcome the small sample size using large-scale data. So our institute has a Florida study professional for strong family. Yeah, so it has more than, one wave has more than 1,000 people, so it's good enough to conduct large-scale multivariate analysis. Okay, so all right, so in order to address this methodological problem, I have planned to use 3 different psychometric methodologies to develop a job motivation scale focus on child welfare workers. So today's presentation is going to use 2 different methods, confirmatory factor analysis, CFA, and item response theory technique. Eventually, I'm going to use artificial intelligence and data mining techniques as well. But due to the lack of time, I want to touch based on the first 2 techniques. So I want to introduce those 2 things briefly. All right, so to my surprise, I found no specific scale tailored for this field on the child welfare job motivation. So while some motivation theories are borrowed from management or psychology in a lot of child welfare research, some of you may wonder why we need to develop this kind of scale or instrument when there are already existing ones. So unless a field of study construct its own unique concepts, I believe it's difficult to recognize the academic value of that field as being high, and it is hard to escape criticism for borrowing theories from other disciplines, experience a strong sense of purpose in their work. So for instance, recently the FSU incorporated two different colleges, such as the College of Education and College of Human Development. So as you know, College of Education, education is first, and then human development is second. So when you see two different college name in order, you see who's gonna be more dominant than the other. And also human development, before they changed their name, actually the main department is home economics. Home economics. So they have their own academic association, and they launched the International Journal of Consumer Studies, something like that. But nowadays, the lack of the scholarship, that journal actually was merged into the business people, business administration. So as you search the International Journal of Consumer Studies, that journal, you see a lot of editors, and the chief in edit, the person has the business administration degree. So they use their own scales, but human development scholars do not. They just borrow management theories and psychology theories. They mix up all kinds of theories, but they do not develop their own theories. That's why, it shows the lack of foundation of scholarship. So when I came here for the first time, I actually was so confused about the concept and the field between social work and the sociology. So now I feel social work is very driven, focus on the field people, and they have to live every day to address their own problem in the field. They actually have a problem and they live in the field, so they have their own problem, so they have to have their own solution as well. So why not we develop our own theory rather than borrowing management or psychology theory? Anyway, I believe that as someone with an outsider's perspective like me, I may be able to see things that those within the field of child welfare might not. Also at the same time, I believe you will bring your knowledge and experience into this research, and then we can combine things together to get better insight. Okay, so why I try to use CFA? So before we bring CFA, factor analysis, factor is a latent factor. Why do we use latent factor? Because motivation, can you touch motivation? No, we cannot see motivation. It's not tangible. So if we use just a general linear model, regression model, we cannot fully construct that concept. So here, general linear model, as you see, y equals y hat plus errors. So y has errors. However, x, function of x is vector x. X does not assume errors. But there is nothing without error in the world, right? But in the regression model, scholars just assume x's do not have errors, which is unrealistic. That's why whenever we investigate latent, unobserved variables, we use a latent factor approach in order to explain errors. So factor analysis, we have two kinds. EFA, exploratory factor analysis, is when we do not have a certain theory. Then we just dump into all the items, and then whatever statistics show, we just reduce the data, then we're gonna have some kind of vectors. But we do not know what vectors are, what they are. We don't know. That just shows some kind of grouping. But we have theories. There is nothing new under the sun nowadays. We have theories. We have good observations and experience that we have got to explain the phenomena and problems. So we use a confirmatory factor analysis when we have underlying theories. So I'm going to use CFA, confirmatory factor analysis. So this is a type of classical test theory because X equals true score plus errors. So now X variables has embedded with errors. Okay, so, but modern psychometricians do not try to just use only factor analysis because modern psychometricians use IRT. IRT is the most advanced statistical method, and I will talk about it a little bit later because I want to make sure the assumption of factor analysis, which is CTT first. So then we can enjoy the benefit of IRT. All right, so CFA Unit 1. So the key word for today's presentation, psychometrics. What is psychometrics? Psycho is mind or mental state of a person. Metric means expressing numerical values of it. And the mainstream psychometrics theory is IRT, but in order to know the benefit of the IRT, we want to make sure the foundational knowledge of CFA. So this is not moving automatically. I have to touch this and this, separately. Yeah. Okay, so this is the result of the factor analysis. So when we report CFA factor analysis, basically we want to, factor loading is like a coefficient. So in order to compare the size or scale, which one is bigger than the other, magnitude among the variables, which one is most important toward CWWM, child welfare, work, motivation. So here, factor. Each factor is a latent sub-factor. This is big, high-level factor, motivation. And then, I use 102 items. And then, based on the theories, I already know the content domain affection. Like child welfare students have affection to this field. Child welfare students have important factor, very crucial factor, which is organizational social context. And perceived social recognition in child welfare is also crucial factor. And goal ambiguity, so I reversed this factor to get the scale in one direction, and commitment to the child welfare and career continuity, and then task self-efficiency. So regardless of statistics, I got this name, labels from the theories. So let's see if the theories, yes.
You have a question online. Katie has a
Okay.
question.
Sorry, just a quick question. I may have missed this one piece of information, but who exactly is in your sample?
Okay, so case managers.
And all these,
Which
did
wave
you,
did you use?
did
7.
you select case managers who just had social work education backgrounds, or did you use all case managers?
So 1,040 people from the wave 7.
So that wouldn't have been all case managers. If you used the entire wave 7, then you have some other like health and human service workers in
Yes.
there. They're not all child welfare workers.
Yeah.
So if it, I thought I heard in the beginning you talking about looking at this. This is meant to describes social work motivation. So when you say social work motivation, you don't mean people who are educated in social work. You mean people who are doing social work activity.
So I know what you are talking about. So this is focus on construct building. So I did not analyze subgroup statistics yet. So like these people are not investigated in terms of the human development people side or nursing side or social work side or child welfare side. If I bring those subgroup memberships later to do the separate regression analysis, I might specify the population more in detail. But right now, kind of beginning study and just the focus on only concept rather than like regression kind of direction. So at the beginning of my presentation, research, regardless of who they are, or how old they are, or if they are male or female, or if they are from human development or whatever. But the concept tried to extract it from the population, entire population of wave 7. I forgot the acronym. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that whatever. What kind of label the people are there, I don't know, but I use all the population in it. So I would say, I will answer you like when the data set was reported last year. So in that kind of booklet, I saw the data set description. Right now, I do not know how many people are from human development or how many people are solely child welfare. I don't know.
Did that answer your question, Katie?
Yeah, that answered my question. I think I was in the beginning we were talking about social work theory, and then now I get it. This is just folks that were in the FSPSF sample that are doing child welfare work. So I got it. I got clarity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this lambda ULI, unit loading identification. So if we fix one, and by fixing this one as a certain size, then we can compare lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4, lambda 5, and lambda 6 compared to this one. So this is the way how we compare the magnitudes of each factor relatively. So, and then this sub-factor is different from others by using discriminant validity coefficient. So discriminant validity coefficient is called AVE, and AVE is supposed to be larger than shared variances. Shared variance is computed as squared factor correlation. Okay, so factor loading is each factor loading is the strength to how tightly each sub-factor is connected to the motivation, the higher level factor, so convergent validity. So all are met to the criteria. So, and this number, because of the lack of the space, I just put the number of items, and affection has 4 items. Organizational social context is 12 items, and this 5, 5. So we're gonna, since we have 6 sub-factors, I provide 6, slide for each factor. So here, these people justified the sub-factor for motivation, and this is a statistical result. So Cronval alpha is a little bit low, but the criterion is threshold is 0.7. So if I just, and depending on the decimal points, where are you gonna rounding up? So it can be 0.7. Anyway, model data fit indices shows all good. So I think I started with 12 or 19 items, and then, like if error variance are bigger than factor loading, that means we don't want to accept those items. We throw away those items, and these are the sophisticated items to converge the subfactor. So 4 items construct subfactor affection to the child welfare. So, and theoretically, these people justify this organizational social context subfactor. And if their argument or their theory is justified by the data, then we kind of accept their argument, right? So model data fit indices shows something like that. But here, RMSE is larger than the threshold, so, but we have these two indices are met by this threshold, so we accept this item as well. And the third subfactor, social recognition in, and these people justify this subfactor, and this is the result. Again, when we evaluate the result, we have to comprehensively evaluate the result, and the RMSE is a little bit problematic, but CFI, TLI, SRMR, they are okay, so we accept this as well. I also started with like 10 items for this subfactor, but all other items were no good, so I just chose this refined item only. Okay, so fourth one, goal ambiguity. So some population, some participants answer the child welfare goal is very unclear like that. So that's why they cannot work very well, because when we talk about whether or not the goal was achieved or whether or not the process is effective or not, we have to set up goal first, right? But sometimes we have multiple goals or sometimes unclear goals, so people have ambiguity and complexity. It's not easy to define the goal. So that affects the motivation as well. So here is the goal ambiguity items, 5 items. And the fifth one is a commitment to child welfare. Okay. So I don't know this journal is good or bad, but I saw this journal a lot, but they kind of blocked it, so I couldn't retrieve the individual article. Okay, so this is items. Yeah, I really welcome you discuss whether or not the content validity is met. I mean, even though I extracted the items based on the theory, and also the result, the statistical result shows that these items are supporting to the factor theoretically. However, when we read that meaning, if it is not valid, we have to throw away. So, I'm not a domain expert, so I want to discuss this content. And the last one is task self-efficacy. And Park and Pierce, these people used SEM, and the way how they use motivation is they adopted the public administration scale, PSM, public service motivation. So, but public PSM scale always include policy making or policy implementation, which is not necessarily connected to the social welfare frontline workers. So I think there is some issue when Park and Pierce borrowed PSM in the child welfare workers to do the SEM. I mean, SEM is, structural equation modeling, so it's about causal modeling. So before that, I want to measure the measurement first and then move on the cause and effect, modeling issue. Okay, so again, I don't think the statistical result has a problem here. So statistics always possibly justified because we have a lot of sample size. And so ironically speaking, I don't trust the statistics only. I always read the contents, and if it does not make sense, I throw away the statistics. Okay, so this statistical result will be introduced in the SSWR conference. Okay, second one is IRT, and the IRT is factor analysis is just talking about explaining the error terms, because X variable in the regression model does not include errors. Even though Y has errors, X does not have errors in regression analysis. So factor analysis try to explain measurement errors as well as factor loading. So explaining part, unexplaining part. Right now, IRT stage, IRT means, when we have a person, ability again is not visible. How can we define this person ability is high or low? That is, we use item ability. So if a person, smart person, got the correct answer in the hard question, that we say this person is smart. And if easy question was correctly answered, then this is a low level ability. So I mean, still smart people have to get the correct answer, easy question, hard question consistently, right? But anyway, the idea is IRT is, this is another name is latent trait modeling. So if we focus on human, then that's a latent trait construct, psychological trait. But if we focus on item decide the person's ability level. So here, low difficulty, if easy item is a low difficulty item, then the person has a low ability. Hard question, then the person has a high ability. So using this psychometric, IRT is a scaling technique. Okay, so now when we go to a clinic, doctor or nurse always ask, how degree your pain is now, right? From 1 to 10, describe it. That can be standardized, and then 0 is average, and then 3 is high, -3 is low, okay? But that is a kind of cumulative function. We know that low is minus sign is low, and then positive is high. But here, let's say George and Alice here, and then we ask one survey item to them, hey, are you agree with the current gun control policy? And then George said, hey, I mean, I'm a grown-up man, and the Constitution allow me to carry gun to protect me and my family. So George totally disagree with the current gun control policy. In the meantime, Alice is progressive educator, and then she's progressive, and she also does not agree with that, because a lot of some people died because of that, armed people. So, but you know what? These people have a totally different reason, but they happen to say common category, strongly disagree. In this case, it's not the same as like, your pain level from 0 to 10. That's not it. This is not cumulative function in IRT. So how this situation happened? So we have to read the contents. And then now, George is here. and Alice is here, and they are quite extremely negative or positive, extreme people. And around this area, like when we grade the students, grade, and 89 is B and then 91 is A, right? But I always have a lot of emails from the students who is 89 points. Hey, professor, whatever, can you give me a bonus point so then I can get 1 and then I can get A, not A. So when I am tempted to upgrade their score by doing something, but the person who has 81 points never email me. They don't try to do it. They don't want to give me bad impression to me by asking big 9 points upgrade. It's impossible, right? Anyway, so when a person who answered the category, the survey item around this area, cut point, yes or no, then these people are measurement errors a lot. And measurement error, Alice here, and then George, there's another measurement errors here as well because they happen to say the same item, even though they have totally different ideas, right? So this kind of survey item, we have to think about it. What kind of measurement can be used, and then like George and Alice case is called the ideal point function. Historically, this is from Coombs unfolding scaling, Thurston scaling, and pain degree or ability score. That kind of thing is 2PL, 2 parameter logistic model, Rashi model. These kind of things, cumulative function, Gottman. So most education people in the College of Education, they use this one. And like me, social scientist, we have a bunch of survey. So I believe we have to use this ideal point function. But for some reasons, historically, they were defeated by these people. So nowadays, just the Gottman is so rampant. Okay, so this study comparison, I compare 2PL and the Rashi model and then CFA3 model approach by using yes or no, agree, disagree. I bring this study in the second conference in November. Okay, so this is the already published paper using just the simulated data by me. First 2 studies done based on the Dr. Dina Wilke's data, first study data, and this one is just the simulated data. So, like, I think, okay, so foster care. So since we don't have a lot of time, let's skip this YouTube. This is about case manager's routine. And the case manager investigate the case, right? And then they will decide, take the kid from the bad family and then decide whether or not in-home care or foster care service. So let's say in-home care is a control group and foster care is treatment group. Even though it's not something like that, this is just natural observed, study. So this is not something like experiment study, treatment group and control group. However, just for the convenient purpose, yeah. So we have 2 groups here. Treatment group, if the kids are really bad in a family, then we have to take them out from them, right? Then we put them in foster care here for protection. And here, in-home care. And somewhat around the borderline, case manager is so confused. Sometimes the kids' families look fine, but sometimes, they saw like their father molesting the girls like that, and then, so they, like case managers' discretionary decision can be changeable, right? Especially the kids are around the borderline, risk score is a borderline. So then we want to compare that kind of decision making can affect the outcome scores. So here, let's say treatment is foster care and control group is in-home care. So we cannot assign a kid here and there, that's unethical. That's not realistic. That's why we do this Monte Carlo simulation study, based on simulated data. So if we have very high risk to do something like a smoke or new medicine experiment, it's very unethical. It's not feasible, right? Then we want to use a simulation study to avoid dangerousness. And here, like this group of people, medicine something research council. So let's say there are a lot of kids here. We can make a line from risk score 100 points until 0 point. And then we're gonna make it linear line and let's say care continuum. And then we're gonna put cut point as 60 points. And if the child risk score is 61, he's gonna be assigned to a foster care, and 59 is in-home care because he's kind of okay. So there is always threshold. If we have two groups, there is one cutoff. So regardless, race, gender, even though we try not to do race discrimination, gender discrimination, there's always discrimination. You know why? Because of the cut point. Around the cut point, the children around the cut point, they are always selectively chosen to be assigned to either group. So why do I say this one? If we go with a continuous score, continuum, then either in-home care and foster care, right? And then we have a person. AI cannot do everything, right? We have a human being, case manager. Case managers see that, they use their discretion, and then even though the child has a 59, I have to send this kid to foster care to protection, then change the person's assignment to different membership, right? So this override happen. If the score 59 is in-home care, if it is stick to the same group, then not override happen. But if a case manager override this child membership to foster care, then override happen. So we have to, when override happen more around the cut score, right? So there is a selection bias. So selection bias is not randomly happen. It's around the borderline cut score. So low score, the risk in home, high score, but around this borderline, there's always override happen. We have to consider that because the override exists in reality, but we never estimate that effect in the outcome estimates. Okay. So override, so around the cut score, this is standardized cut score. Around the cut score, override probability is maximum. And here, it's not miracle to have override. However, the probability is really low. Probability really low. Okay, case managers action mainly more happen near the cut score. How can we model this override? There is a given formula. So the goal of this case study is to model casework override decision on care placement. Why? After we simulate managers' override decision, we eventually want to estimate the outcome variable. So then the foster care kids became better welfare, better well-being later. So, one person, like I'm a Solomon, like we cut the one person is here, the same twin. One person is foster care, one person is in-home care, right? But in reality, we cannot do that. But we can do it in simulation study because there's no ethical issue at all. So then we compare their psychological well-being score. Which one has actually better, better outcome? All right, so this is a result. We don't have to memorize this one. This one is always listed in the statistics cover page inside. Okay, these people use that, modify that. Okay, so now you're familiar with the DID, difference in difference. So this interaction effect is actual foster care's extra foster care's effect on the Y outcome. And this is 0 dummy variable in-home care control group because it's control group. 1 is foster care. And the DID, post score minus pre-score of treatment group minus a post score minus pre-score of control group. Okay, so this is a technique that I use. Okay, so we have 2 models. We're going to compare the estimates between 2 different models. When we do not override any in the data, and then when we add 10% override, 20% override, 30% override, we compare the estimates, how fluctuated the outcome variable, Y variable. All right, let's move on. So the result is here. Without any override means I said selection bias. Without override, it recovered completely successfully here, but it does not. It's not. So sometimes there is a bias if we do not consider override. Yeah. So. Yeah, this is too much like alien words, so let's move on. So when we compare just the time coefficient and interaction coefficient, it's kind of hard to figure it out if there is really accurate or not. Then we have to calculate bias as well. Yeah, this is a bias formula definition. And also eyeballing method, when we have the highest bias is zero bias. This is a 0 time. Bias can be either minus or plus. So 30% override, it becomes the absolute value is the largest one. So foster care, in-home care, bias a lot. When we add override, okay, this is the result, and this is already published. All right. So it was so technical. However, my key argument here is we want to move on IRT model, but we still have a lot of benefits from factor analysis because we still, have a benefit in using regression analysis, but regression analysis cannot explain the errors in the X. They assume the reliability of X is 1. There's no error, but that's just assumption, which is not necessarily true in reality. So factor analysis was adopted. But now we also have surveys very, very tricky. So factor analysis does not capture that kind of tricky George and Alice situation, so we have to use IRT model. That's my point. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I have questions on some of the first unit. And it might be me not fully understanding the breadth of CFAs. But some of your means and standard deviations looked off to me, and I just was trying to figure out what that was. So that's a good example, like right there. Like, then I'm confused how there's negative means on those items, because they should be kind of a range of like, it's a Likert scale item. So how are the means negative?
Yeah. So this mean is not item means. So this is a scale means. So entire sub-factor, social recognition factor, has the mean in order to compare other sub-factors. So for some reasons, SPSS generate factor scores. There are 3 kinds of factor scores, like regression factor score, some person's name, hard to pronounce, the person's something, factor score.
But I'm asking more, like literally the negative 55.92, for most people respect your choice to work in child welfare. Is this table saying that on average of the 1,040 in the sample, their response was a negative 55.92? Because that's not what's making sense to me. Because the scale item in the data set would have been on a scale of it would be a Likert scale, so a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Okay.
So that's where I'm kind of confused how there's a negative mean on the item.
Okay. Let me see other. Okay. Yeah.
Like those look correct.
Yeah.
But that standard deviation on the scale looks really big. That's where.
It can happen. I
Okay.
think this is right. So I think so this data is I removed all the missing values. So I believe the missing value was coded as a minus 99, right?
Well, there's 3 to 4 codes of missing values. So there's a negative 999, a negative 98, a negative 99, and a negative 97.
I see. Okay, I got you.
So that might, I don't know if some of those got kind of caught in there.
I got you now.
Yeah.
So when I submitted this one piece of paper to SSWR, I deleted all the missing values.
Okay.
So I think this is coincidentally matched with the one output that I submitted. However, I realized there are better sub-factors, and I found that from the theories. And then I started to analyze a new one. And then big hypothesis that I happened to show this one, 99, maybe I did not delete the missing value, so minus 99 was combined here to show that. So
You
yeah,
might have had a few still
Yeah.
left in there because that from
Very-
the scale items that
yeah.
doesn't look
yeah, very good eye.
like it should.
Yeah. So once I go home, I have to double check the data set. If I remove the 999
Yeah.
minus 98, this kind of thing, so then I have to calculate that again. Thank you.
With the factors, like when you're showing your CFA model,
Yeah.
you're going to have, well, don't move from this page for a second. I'm going to use this as an example. So for example, there's different numbers of participants answering each of these items. You're not going to have all 1,040 answering these items.
They were all 1,040, strangely.
It shouldn't be, because you don't, by wave 7, you shouldn't have 1,040 child welfare workers who would have been asked, like the 4th item, I'm committed to continuing to work in child welfare. Because we have, by wave 7, the sample has stayers and leavers. So we have of the 1,040, there are a subgroup of child welfare workers who have remained in child welfare across all 7 waves. But then we have other workers who make up that 1,040 that are not in child welfare specifically, but still maybe doing something in health and human services like counseling. So they might get the agency questions, but not necessarily the child welfare questions.
But the
But they would have the negative 97s associated with them because they would be considered missing at that point.
so two things from your questions. So the unit of analysis in the SPSS data still individual person. So ID is recognized as an individual person regardless of their perception is on the agency. I get that perceived agency, I plan to leave this agency,
Right.
something like that. So it's still individual person. And second one is you mentioned the number of samples should be different, but based on this item statistics and everything is 1,040. And then I went back to the data set and then kind of 100, I counted that, and then that shows just like other variables pattern, response pattern, pretty much similar.
Okay.
So I just leave it alone, but I know it's supposed not to be like everything supposed to be 1040, it's weird because people sometimes they don't answer.
Right.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we might have to look at that a little
Yeah.
more closely because, again, if you're trying, and this is where I'm going to lose my knowledge of CFA. Like if we're trying to look at how these factors are loading to motivation for child welfare work, we have people in that 1,040 who are not in child welfare work responding to those items. And that's where we might just have to kind of massage the sample a little bit and make sure we don't have non-child welfare workers responding to those items. If that makes sense.
So we better go back to the data set.
Yeah, we might just have to look
Yeah,
at wave 7 one more time. I mean, syntax should still work.
yeah,
It's just a matter of making sure you have
yeah,
child welfare workers.
yeah,
Because the 1,000 is not all child
Yeah,
welfare workers.
yeah.
We can say they're all health and human service workers, but there's some others, it's a subgroup.
So syntax, you know, we ran the pre-post analysis as well.
Yeah.
Syntax, just let SPSS follow the command, regardless of
Right,
the
that's what I'm
valid.
saying, like
Yeah,
all the work
yeah,
we've done on this should,
yeah.
should just be a quick click, copy
Right.
and click once we get the
Yeah.
sample kind of
yeah,
a little bit
Yeah.
neater.
mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that's what's happening with the
Yeah.
negative means and some of the sample size.
yeah,
It's just not quite adding up to me right now,
yeah.
but overall, I like it. I mean, it makes sense in terms of like trying to determine a scale for child welfare workers of like how motivated they are for the work.
So we have 5 minutes. I
Okay.
just want to make sure if there's people on Teams
Mm-hmm.
who want to ask any questions that they have an opportunity. Not to cut you off.
No, you can cut me off, it's
Okay.
fine.
So, if there's anyone online who wants to unmute or use the chat, I'm monitoring the chat feed. Hopefully they can hear me.
I can hear you,
Okay.
but I've been cut off, so.
No one?
This might be the most technical, methodological presentation we've had so far at FICW.
Casey, I think you unmuted.
I did unmute. Yeah, I just wanted to say, good presentation, Jiwon. And my question's already answered because my question was about the means as well. But I wanted to make one final comment about sometimes maybe just when you're going through the slides, kind of at the end, just give it a little pause, let it breathe before you move on to the next one. That's my only real comment about like flow and stuff like that. And also, I agree. This is wonderfully technical. I really enjoyed the topic. So thank you.
Thank you, Casey. So if you do not have any other questions, so would it be okay to wrap it up?
Yeah,
Thank you.